Hi guys, hope you're well. So here I am up in Rotherham. Nice trip up. Actually, the weather's pretty good. I'm outside Junior Witter's gym, you can see there, and I'm going to chat to the ex-world champion, ex-European champion, ex-British boxing champion, Witter the Hitter. He's got a book coming out, so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Floyd Mayweather, Ricky Hatton, and everything else. He's a fascinating guy, really interesting, and one of our great British world champions. So hi folks, got an amazing guest here today, Junior Witter. Witter the Hitter, world champ. What was it like that moment when you were announced as the world champion? You know, the combination of all of those years. Tell us about that moment. They're lifting up your hand.
And it's kind of like, is this real? Is this real? It really was, because it was a hard task getting there, and the amount of stripes and arguments behind the scenes that were happening. It was like, it's finally happened. Yeah, and it was really, and it probably took to near enough my first defence before it sunk in. So it's like months.
Was it? I mean, did your life change?
It did, yeah. It definitely changed because there were more invitations, there were more things happening. Mm-hmm. But I had bits of that anyway, because I was like British, Commonwealth, and European before that. Yes. So I'd had the years of, and it was years, dragging through all that and getting stuff. And then I won the world title, and then there was just more stuff. Got more award ceremonies, invitations to gigs, and we're going to go meet so and so and so. And I'm just like, yeah, it definitely changed. But I kept myself very much secluded, and because of that, it stopped me blowing up as such. But it also just kept everything's just felt more natural.
Did people give you more respect? Did you feel like?
Oh yeah. You definitely noticed the respect difference. Just went up to that next level. Mm-hmm. It really did. Yeah. I had people come to me and says, "I didn't think you'd win an area title." Right. Yeah. And I went, "Yeah, that's how wrong you were." Yeah, and he says, "I got to give it to you. You won world title." And I went, "Yeah, I've done it all. Did it the hard way. Won them all. So yeah."
What was the sacrifice? I mean, because I was reading that, financial problems, loans, all of this sort of thing. I mean, what does it take to get to that position?
It varies. Everyone's kind of different. They're all in different situations. But for me I earned nothing for 3 years out of boxing. Wow. Everything I earned for 3 years went back into boxing. Mm. So the money, financial, just put me in a load of debt to start with. And then it's sacrifices of holidays. I didn't go on holiday. I think first holiday was like '99. The first time I took I took 3 weeks off for Millennium, and that were it. And then I didn't have another holiday again until 2006. Yeah. So realistically, I look at all that time within boxing. It's like I didn't start enjoying that side of my life and relaxing and enjoying it till after I was world champion.
So was there like a sort of low moment that you thought, I really can't be doing this, this is too much of a sacrifice?
I knew that's what I wanted to do, and I knew I had the ability to do it. It was just getting the shot. Yeah. And understanding the politics of boxing it's a whole different thing. And for someone who knew nothing about the pro game when I turned pro, I knew nothing, absolutely nothing. Turned pro, and I learned the hard way by doing and going through situations. Then being around Brendan and the gym, you see situations happen with other people. Annie Sawida, Brendan told, you've had your time, you've just been beaten the last couple of times by someone who's not particularly special, pack up. And to actually be there when Brendan's telling somebody that, it's
quite brutal, isn't it?
It's brutal, but it was necessary. And he says, I've done it to a few people. He says, I'd normally take someone with me who needs to see it, and you needed to see what it's like. And
so did he get you to watch?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And he just went, just watch this, I've got to tell him. So he told him, and then he did it to a couple, he did it to Jim Betts as well. Right. Most of them turn around and give it, nope, I'm not having it, I'm carrying on. And Annie Sawina, I don't remember him getting beat, but the others, they carried on, and every one of them had a decent, pretty bad knockout.
Really?
Yeah. And
so he didn't drop them, even though he told them that they were going to...
No, he didn't drop them, but actually, with a couple of them he did. I know with Anis he didn't because the deal he had with Naz at the time, and because he was Naz's best mate, and Frank Warren. Anis kept coming and kept going. The others, once Brendan had told them that and says, look, I don't want you to box anymore. You should pack up and let us dwell for a bit, and then says, and they all basically left, went somewhere else, and then he saw it happen, and it was like, yeah, I mean that's it was brutal, and I just thought, how can you crush someone's dreams like that? But at the same time, how can you not crush someone's dreams like that when the severity of how dangerous boxing is? It's brutal. Yeah. And when they got knocked out bad, it's like they had 2 more fights. That was it. They all packed up. It was. It came to them, and they realised that they weren't going where they thought they were going to be.
Did you always know that you were going to be a boxing champion, a world champion?
No. I turned pro to be British champion.
Right.
Yeah. I just went, I want to be world champion. That's the dream. That was always the dream.
Yeah.
But I thought, I know I'm good enough to be British champion.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely going to be British champion. World champion I want, but I don't know about that.
But when you got to British champion, did you then?
I knew.
Yeah.
No, before I won British title, I knew I was good enough to be world champion. And talent isn't the only driving force, especially nowadays. It's unreal. Yeah. It's the social media side of it. It's just phenomenal, and it's bigger than the actual talent side of it. Yeah, you see boxers come along, and you're just like, you're not very good. No. But you've just done 3,000 people come to watch you. Yeah. You're going to get a title fight, and you're going to get another title fight, and that's what happened. Did you have a big following? No, I didn't get a chance. No, I didn't get a chance to get. And people used to. It wasn't like now, where everyone's got their own social media accounts and people get to see it. It was a lot harder, and it was hard to build up a following when you say to someone, I'm boxing next weekend. Yeah. I'm boxing on Thursday night this week, because that's how much notice I got. Yeah. Some of my fights had 4 days notice, a day's notice.
Didn't that happen to on a world title fight that you got very short notice?
9 days.
9 days, yeah.
9 days for first world title fight. But my first fight was Cameron Rayside, and it was 2 weeks. And it's like, in 2 weeks, you've got to get 100 people from wherever, it's like from Bradford to Derby, as that fight was. So it's like dragging 100 people at a 2 weeks' notice. Yeah. As a one-off, isn't undoable, especially nowadays. But back then, it was a lot harder. Yeah. And the distance seemed so much further. Whereas now the world seems to have got smaller and smaller, and you got people, I'm going to America to meet someone. Yeah, and it's like, I'm not saying it didn't happen, but it was rare. Now it's a lot more common.
Do you feel that you haven't had the kind of acclamation and the that you deserve for what you've achieved?
I definitely haven't had the recognition from the general public, and I know now I'm never going to get it in the way that it should have been. But yeah, it was. And for me, if I came about now, it's a whole different. It'd have been a different ballgame. Yeah. So me, career-wise, I think it'd be so much better for me if I was here. If I was 21 now.
Yes. Yeah.
That would be a massive difference, and I'd be a superstar.
Why didn't you get that sort of fame, as it were? Because, I mean, you were a world champion, European champion, British champion.
Won it all, yeah.
You won it all?
Yeah.
I mean, and there isn't that many British fighters who've achieved what you've achieved.
No, I think there's very few. Might be 3. But it's... Once I was against Ricky Hatton. Ricky Hatton with people's... And Frank Warren ran his organisation where he had 1 star above everybody else. You generally had 1 star in every weight if you wanted to. If you had a decent fight in that way, but he had 1 star that was bigger than every other star. So he had Ricky Hatton, who was my weight, so he became the star, and everybody in his weight got pushed aside, and my achievements did not get recognised at the time.
Yeah. Would you have beaten Ricky Hatton had you gone up against him?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What makes you say that? Well, why are you so sure of that? Obviously, you have your own inner confidence, but did he have a weakness or something that you?
It's styles, abilities, strengths, weaknesses. I'm a very good mover. I don't get hit a lot. Yeah. Yeah. Ricky gets hit a lot. and he has to be on your chest to actually do damage. And then people say, yeah, but he got inside on you. And I went, he might have done eventually if he'd have took the beating before, which is another story. But even if he had done, people have no idea how strong I was on the inside. The fights I used to have with the inside fighting with Ryan Rhodes, John Keaton, Johnny Nelson, Pelly Reid, big guys, from middleweights up to cruiserweights, Bell Pelly were heavyweight. So I was constantly working with people who were physically strong at their heavyweights on the inside and pushing them back and taking it and having wars with them in the gym. But that was my last resort if I had to. But if I can hit you and not get hit, I'm going to hit you and not get hit.
Was that a style that you developed yourself, or was that from the Brendan?
It was definitely me. I've got some of my old amateur fights, and I do exactly the same thing that I do as I was moving through, just that it wasn't as polished.
Right.
But you can see the switching. I've been switching since I was like 14. 13, 14 I started switching, and then I do it for a bit, not to the success that I had later on. And when I turned pro, it was a case of styles, just everybody around, people I know in Leeds, Keith, they all went, go to Brendan's. Which I was always going to do anyway. I was always going to go check it out. Went to Brendan's, fit in with his style, his philosophy, the footwork system, what Brendan uses, and it's like, that's me. And it just gelled.
With Brendan, what was that like being in that gym? Because obviously there was like, Naz was there and this, that. Did you feel that you got the right amount of attention, or was it all taken away with other people?
The thing with that gym was, if you had a fight coming up, you got attention.
Yeah.
The minute your fight was over, there was 6 other people who needed and deserved attention. So Brendan had spent some time with somebody, especially with Naz, spent a lot of time with Naz, and when Naz walked out the door, there'd be somebody else sat there giving it, I need some attention. And Brendan had the ability to do that. And he treated that kid different from this kid. And it was what I needed for me, what Isham needed for Isham. Dave Colwell tried to help Dave, and it'd give people what he thought they needed, and the amount of attention they needed and what they needed to do. And Brendan was unbelievably good at seeing someone and realising what they need, and that's half the battle. That's the major part of the battle, is actually understanding what that person needs, but then delivering it to them in a way which they can accept and grow. Because there's loads of kids I've seen through and I thought, he's good at this and he's good at that. But he didn't recognise that and he didn't recognise that.
Was he like a kind of father figure to you?
Oh, he was definitely a father figure. He was a father figure to the gym. Johnny Nelson especially. But he was also the man who knew everything. I remember him talking about Mayweather. When Mayweather was super featherweight, and saying Mayweather's going to move all the way up to welterweight and win world titles all the way. And I went, he's going to up heavier than I am now. He ain't going to get past me, and I'm going to be world champion before he gets there. So he ain't getting past me. And Mayweather did it. And he saw, that was the major one for me. But there were loads of people in loads of different circumstances where I thought, yeah, okay. But it's like, I remember me and Brendan talking about Lee Wood. And I went, Brendan, he's the closest thing of the generation that were in the gym at that time to what I do and what you did before that. Because at that particular point, Dominic had took over, Kel had come back, so it was a different technique, Barry was switching his style to more towards Kel, and taken away from what I thought he was extremely good at. And I went, Lee Wood's the one who's going to come through and smash it. And he went, yeah. He says, I'm glad you can see it. He says, he says, yeah, you've got the eye like I had. You can see that little bit of something.
Well, when you kind of retired, did you keep your relationship with Brendan?
It kind of is for them down there, but the difference was, so my last fight was 2015. I was still in the gym and I was still training and still looking for fights. But I also started coaching down there, so I became the head amateur coach. So I was in the gym, and at that particular point, Brendan's ability to really be what he was had gone. He was there, but he was a shell of what he was at that particular point. His disease had kicked in, his memory was slipping, and it was a very hard time to be in that gym through that period, because Brendan was a frustrated person who knew what he wanted, but knew he didn't have the memories of what was happening today and what happened yesterday. He remember what happened 20 years ago, and 10 years ago, and he'd remember that very well. But what happened last week, what happened 2 hours ago, he'd forget. So it was very hard dealing with Brendan in that situation. Plus, we're in Brendan's gym, which is a baby, and he's looking at the training. I can see Brendan looking and saying, "This isn't right.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be doing that. They should be doing this. Why they? Who's that?" And it's like, "That's Andy. He's been here for 15 years, Brendan." Yeah. "Oh yeah, I know who Andy is." And he was like, "Yeah, all right, and I'm all right with Andy. Who's that other coach? Who's that other?" And it was like extremely hard to deal with someone who you knew was so brilliant and so sharp and on the ball, to someone who at that point, it was a shadow of himself. And then you get moments within that where his insights into stuff was just like, boom, spectacular.
And then when Naz was there, did he kind of overshadow everybody in the gym? How did you feel about it all? Because I know,
Naz at that point were a knob. He was brilliant, no doubt about it. He was brilliant. He'd mastered the system, what Brendan taught him, and he was a brilliant boxer. But it was Naz became the prince instead of the prince just being the boxer, the show, just for the show. And he brought it into his real life, and he tried to make that into real life, and he upset and annoyed a lot of people with stupid stuff. And then I remember the times prior to that, and in between that, I'd have times when he was really good. But it was just at times he would, an odd at times.
But when you think of sort of Naz and you think of your achievements, I mean, you should be on a par, really, within the general public.
Yeah.
And why is that not happened?
The media.
Yeah.
The way the media worked back in the day, Frank One controlled a lot of it. So everything I did throughout my career, I never got the recognition instantly.
Would it have been that if you'd have had like a major sort of Ricky Hatton fight, do you think that would have really enhanced your...
that would have... Anybody who fought Ricky at that point got the attention. Yeah. Frank knew I was going to beat him. Fight wasn't happening.
Yeah.
But barring that, there's other ways of going through and still making yourself a name. Because there's other fighters who still made names who were that way.
Yes.
Some people he fought, some he didn't. And Frank just decided that everybody who boxes for me, especially in that way, is getting minimum limelight. And whatever, Ricky's getting everything. And everything he had done is over-exaggerated, overhyped. Everything everybody else does gets minimalised. You look at John Thaxton, and John Thaxton was having a good career before Ricky came on scene. He was doing flying. He was IBF and WBO Intercontinental. He boxed a world title eliminator, got beat. He never got brought back. He didn't get right. We're going to have this fight, and we're going to rematch with that kid, or we're going to skip past that and box so and so like they do these days. And he never got that. And he got to a point. I remember. I think he boxed 1 4-rounder in 12 months. What? Before they put him in with Ricky Hatton. Where Ricky had the big build-up, all the hype, everything pushed towards him. And they went in it and they had a great fight. But everything in that year before that had taken away from what John Thaxton had achieved. And everything that Ricky had been pushed up. So when they actually met, hype-wise, Ricky was up here. John was down here. Fight came, it was like that. It was nip and tuck, and Ricky just got it, which was fair enough. It was a very good close fight.
Do you ever see people from that gym these days, people like Naz or Harold Graham or anything like that?
I haven't seen Harold for probably 15 years.
Why didn't he succeed? You know, because he was so gifted, wasn't he?
Harold's one of either number one or number two, depending how you of the best fighters who've never won a world title.
Yeah.
Harold Bobber Graham, Curtin Lang, British fighters who never won a world title. Yeah. Absolutely phenomenal, the pair of them. The thing with Bomber was he was that good. We were a bit like me, just before social media. Well, way before social media, but he wasn't given enough chances. And then Ben, Eubank, Watson, they won't box him. None of them three had boxed him. So they were all... And Eubank's the only one who admits it. Yeah, Eubank will admit it. Ben and Michael Watson didn't. And Eubank says, I wouldn't have beat him. I might have been WBO world champion. He achieved what he achieved, and he's a phenomenal personality. But he knows he'd have never beat Bomber Graham. And he says, I'll box anybody else in the world except Bomber Graham.
Was it that one fight, I can't remember who he fought, where he got knocked out? Or did that sort of set him downhill?
Oh, the Julius Jackson.
Yes.
Yeah, the Julius Jackson fight, phenomenal fight, had it all on the plate. Just got caught, just got filled. And he wasn't the flavour of the month at that time. It wasn't at the beginning of his career. People tend to think that if it's not the beginning of your career, we don't want to build you back up, especially back in those days. It was harder to get world title fights, a lot harder. And he got there, and that happened. And it was very hard for him. I know him and Brendan fell out as well. And it just affected the way his media worked for him. And basically knowledge of social media and how the media works was minimum for the general public and most boxers. So we don't understand it.
Have you met up with sort of Naz afterwards? Do you talk about the old days and stuff?
Not really. I hadn't seen him for probably about 5 years. Right. And we didn't have a long conversation then. Me and Naz were never best of friends. We were gym mates and we were fine and we were cool. And there's a lot of respect on each other's talent. But he was at that point, because I knew Naz when he was 14. When I come to gym, he was world champion, he was flying. And if he wasn't, he understood the social side of the game. He understood social media, he understood the media side of the game. And basically, if you weren't able to give him a leg up into what he needed to get more money, he wasn't really interested in dealing with you. Did you ever sort of spar with him or anything? I sparred with him loads of times. Yeah. We've done loads of rounds.
Well, how did you feel in there? You thought, oh, this is I'm good in here.
I think when I first got him with him, I thought, yeah, it's all right. I've known him for years. I've seen him. We've talked. I've seen him spar. I'll be all right. And I got in with him, and I realised the levels he'd just gone through to be world champion.
Yes.
Because last time I really seen him watch him spar, we were amateurs. At 18, 22, he's world champion. Yeah. And then I just seen the amount of improvement that man had done, which was like, yeah, respect you. And then by the time, last time we sparred, I thought, yeah, I'm comfortable with you. I'm not bothered. I'd box you if that fight came up. And he used to walk around the same way I used to walk around at. Then he'd get himself down to 9 stone, which was just like phenomenal. Yeah. And he met weight, which no way I could do. But if he were going to box me around the weight that we walked around, I was confident I could beat him. Not many other people would, but yeah. I'm happy. I'm happy knowing that how good I was and how much I'd improved in that time.
Are you satisfied with your career?
I'm satisfied with my achievements through my career. British, Commonwealth, European, box.
Take it away from you.
Boxed so many dangerous people when they were at their worst. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I'm comfortable. I'll never turn down a fight. I wasn't scared of anyone. And I'm very comfortable with what I achieved and how I achieved it.